what I wanted to say is zines. If anyone has ever read a zine, empty auditorium. Hello. Check 1, 2. Check.
So zine. I mean, what exactly is a zine? Clarify.
Okay, so a zine is basically a tiny pamphlet / magazine.
Tiny pamphlet.
And it's usually DIY. So it means that a bunch of 17-year-olds got together and drew cartoons and then wanted to make it, basically.
Yep, there we go. Okay, yeah, I'm live. Sorry. It's a small magazine made by young people.
And it champions the DIY ethic. It can be anyone getting together, making a cartoon. Some people I've seen, they take newspaper cutouts and glue them together, mishmashes, poetry, funny things. Yeah. Deep things, whatever the fuck you want to put in that thing,
so
you can put it in there.
Stream of consciousness, like, almost.
Basically, yeah, it's like when somebody writes a book or makes a song.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see is more people like us who have a sense of who we are, making shit and...
Like a zine.
Yeah, like a zine, because I've always had this idea. I'm going on record now.
Well, go for it. I mean,
I've
what
always had
is
this
your idea for a zine? Maybe we should share and get some people to share ideas for zines.
I mean, I just love drawing. So, you know, and I know other people who can draw really well, but they're very shy and introverted, and they don't think they have a good avenue for it, or they don't see a future in it. And I'm like, what kind of future are you trying to make in zines? You don't make it for your future. You make it to make a point, yeah, or just have fun. And I just love this idea of people, going to a photocopier, doing maybe 100 copies and then just posting it through people's doors. Because all this mainstream crap can be easily avoided if we have chats like this, or if we write things and then send them.
Okay.
That's it.
I kind of agree with what you're saying, actually. I think now, obviously, we've got internet, we're trying to find that audience that's going to like it, but you're just talking about going around your local houses and posting
sort of for the sake of it, for your own interest.
I also sort of believe in the doing rather than the, it's a weird thing to say, being a professional talker that just is basically a mobile talking shop, but I think the doing is actually very important as well.
What would, Pat, what would you do if you made a zine?
A zine? Well, it'd probably be all little ridiculous bands that nobody else thinks is cool, to be honest, because that's what I do most of my time.
Do you reckon you'd find an audience for them, though? They'd suddenly...
to an extent. I mean, little magazines like So Young and things in Brighton, they're doing that sort of stuff, but I think you need a bit more, a bit of wider content. The online magazine like Another and things like that, they cover more arty stuff as well, and it brings a bit more interest into it. They'll they'll do a run of photographs people have taken of beautiful derelict buildings across the world, or I don't know, can't really think of another example, to be honest, but it's there's so many interesting things out there that you can draw on.
What is it specifically about this zine format, this sort of physical, low print run sort of physical format that's appealing?
I mean, I think, going back to this thing about print media and slagging off Rupert Murdoch and The Sun and, people having control, the only response to that is to make it yourself. And I don't think it's just newspapers. I think I'm more interested, you can make anything yourself. You don't have to make it the way that the big company wants to make it.
What about Kath? You haven't said anything on the subject yet. Do you have a zine in mind? Are you a zinester? What's the collective noun for people who are into or make zines? Is there a...
It's a kind of zine scene, isn't it? There's
there we go, zine scene.
That was totally by accident. It's a bit of a tricky one with zines because they were there because they were essential. They came about before online media, and they came about. People didn't just have music just being thrust in them from all angles. People had to actively try and discover new music, and the zine network worldwide was the way that you did that, especially for those people that liked kind of the counterculture and not the mainstream bands. Yeah. And there are still people that believe, people who make music, people who put music out in today's music industry, that believe that you shouldn't have to just, you should have to fight to find bands. You shouldn't just have everything on your, like, just given to you. And there's people that, still keep that spirit alive, and there's bands that will actively not have social media and will put zines together and will collaborate with other people that do zines, or even if, they're musicians and they don't work as, in that kind of field, they will collaborate with people that do. So it's still very, very important, and I think it's the same as, like, it's another scene within music. It's like, it's not your kind of Radio 1, it's not your pop music, it's not even like Q or Enemy or Mojo or anything like that. It's another area. So zines are really, really important for that, and so young. The lads who run that are so brilliant, and they're 16 when they started it. But what they've done is they've picked a few bands that they massively support, and they put gigs on as well, and they put gigs on in Brighton and London, and they book those bands, so they're on the front page of their magazine, and then they're headlining their gigs as well, and it's like they're creating a scene around these bands because they feel like they're important for the youth.
Are these like zines and the zine method of distributing sort of music and musical ideas? Is it specific to certain genres of music? Or, I mean, I can't imagine like the equivalent of Katy Perry or somebody kind of like relying on zines. Like, is it what's the...
But they never did.
They never did.
That was always the big industry format, and they didn't really have, it's always had a counterculture element. So yeah, in that respect, it has always had a counterculture element, regardless of the actual genre, really, I think.
Let's go to Mikey then to Leo.
I'm just reminded of something that someone said yesterday on the Talkaoke table, is they said just simply to speak up is subversive. It's a subversive act in itself, and I think there's something subversive about saying, I'm going to do this myself, I'm going to... be it through a zine or through any other format, even just,
Leo?
Just to change the focus from music reviewing, I just wanted to say that giving people visual stimulus is important.
And is this wrapped up in zine culture as well? It's not just about text.
Just think about when you were a kid and you saw cartoons on the TV. And that was your life, basically, for like 1 or 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Like, adults don't really have that anymore. And not unless you read The Private Eye, which is hilarious.
Do adults not watch cartoons and engage in kind of
why not?
Media like that?
Why not?
So Rick and Morty's pretty popular.
Now.
Oh, right, but you're saying like within the last few years, or hang on, let's pass over to Pat.
I have to beg to differ, because there is I mean, if you're talking about comics, not Marvel and that, I mean, there's a massive adult comic contingent, and strangely enough, steampunk is massive. I mean, I know a lady older than me, and she goes to all the steampunk conventions, and she makes all the clothes, you're aware
with
of
all, like,
steampunk with all the goggles and
top hats.
She does all that, and she, she's probably 60, but she loves all that, and that is really.
What about these guys
adult,
walking past?
Adult,
do you know about
kids don't
steampunk?
actually do it.
You into steampunk?
They
don't seem very steampunk. Yeah.
So
I champion this, but the mainstream doesn't. And the mainstream doesn't encourage adults to play. There's no break time. But you've lived your whole life with break time. So what happens when you don't get to play anymore? No, on an honest note, some people don't know how to let it all out, and then you get, bad. Then you get
I was going to say, what about George? You look like, are you on a break time, or have you just had break? We're talking about break time, and adults kind of like playing, like having break time, play time, downtime.
You definitely need to not work sometimes, as I found out the other week when my body protested at my lack of getting over the flu, and I got lockjaw and nosebleeds.
That's not happy.
Yeah. Stress lockjaw is a thing.
So how would you encourage people to take more downtime to actually...
Go to Liverpool Psych Fest.
This does feel a lot like adult playtime, doesn't it?
No, but I mean, I think, even on a normal working day, I think it's worth just going out and doing something. I'm lucky because I work in the artist studio, and it's just all play. Do you know what I mean? But even through that play, we have little breaks where we do something stupid in between doing the slightly less stupid things.
Such as?
Well, actually, to be honest, I think the contemporary art practice is mostly about writing emails these days. I seem to spend about 75% of my time writing or reading emails or making phone calls. So that's basically contemporary art practice.
So the downtime is actually probably the constructive work. What do people want to share, like what they do with their downtime? Just say you've had like a solid day of work. What do you do?
I force myself to have a lunch break.
Yeah.
So I'm quite lucky because I'm currently working for National Museums Liverpool, and the office is like right by the museums. So the other day, the weather was really, really crap outside. I didn't particularly want to wander around town, so I went to the World Museum and looked at the dinosaurs for half an hour, and I felt so much better when I went back into the office.
Yeah.
Like I just think it's really, really important to switch off. So
and spread dinosaurs around the city.
Dinosaurs are great, aren't they? But one of my favourite things is my dad lives in Snowdonia in North Wales, and he doesn't have Wi-Fi, and he also doesn't have any signal. And it's the best to just like spend a week just totally switched off from emails and from just like the general rat race. And also sometimes on a Friday evening I just like don't charge my phone up. So my phone's just dead for the whole weekend, and then I plug it in on Monday morning. I think it's just really, really important to not make yourself available all the time to people. Because the minute that you do, then they take advantage of that. I've got friends who answer emails at midnight from like really wound up band managers, and you've made yourself available. They're always going to do that. So I think it's just important to be able to just come away and just shut off and be your own person away from.
And this is something that came up in conversation quite a lot on the Mikey was in the table about getting away, like turning the phones off, switching off the Wi-Fi, and so on. And I guess it's synonymous with downtime, playtime.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I wanted to say when that conversation was going on a bit earlier on today is that in the kind of like traditional Jewish world, you have Shabbat, which from Friday sunset till Saturday sunset, you are not allowed to do any work, and there's all sorts of arcane rules about what that means. But I think we should have a kind of Sabbath for the media Sabbath day, where, do you know what I mean? Where you're not allowed to check your smartphone for 24 hours.
So there'd be like a national day, like every alternate Wednesday, just the internet switched off or something.
I found that when I do reviewing and that, and all my band stuff, that is my relaxation. But as you said, then people do feel they've got a demand on your time. And I quite often go out, and sometimes I just want to go out, and I don't want to write about it. I just want to go out and have a laugh, and I get bands phoning me and going, "Where you reviewing last night?" And I feel like saying, if I worked in a bar that you went to, would you expect me to go behind the bar every time I was out and serve you drinks, because that's really what you're expecting me to do now? I don't say that because I'm nice, but I just say no, I wasn't, because I don't feel I have to explain myself.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think Kath hit on the point, which is increasingly we need to just go away from emails, and we need to get away from this whole internet thing. So,
but why are people so married to their emails in the first place? I mean, this is kind of something that worries me about this talk of like, people just get away from it. It feels a little bit privileged sometimes.
Well, I mean, I have to say that I'm completely going to hold up my hand and say I'm an addict. I'm addicted to Facebook. I tried to do this thing of having 24 hours without Facebook. I lasted 20 hours, and then I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna." Yeah.
Well, just do it a few more times and work your it's like running a 10k. You gotta
time on Facebook.
Build it up.
Who spends too much time on Facebook?
What is too much time?
Auditorium, hear me loud and clear. Who spends too much time on Facebook? Put your hands up.
Yeah.
Put your hands up, security guards. Do you spend too much time on Facebook? Good man.
Hey. But let me put this question back to you though, Leo. What is too much time on Facebook?
I think it's that point where interesting stuff is happening around you and you actually shut it off to stay on the screen, and that is when the alarm bells should be ringing off in your head that you're going to lose the meaning of your life.
So it's like,
you don't have a life anymore.
So someone who's posting "my house is on fire" is probably a sign that there's. Yeah.
See, the only reason I use fucking Facebook is because I work in the media and creative industries, and keeping in touch with musicians and other artists is for Messenger. So that's the main reason I use Facebook, is for Messenger. So I think that point should be, as soon as you've answered all of your messages, you've sent any messages you wanted to send, and as soon as you find yourself on your newsfeed, that's too much time.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
Because like,
the newsfeed
why
is
do you want
the
to
least
scroll
functional
through?
part for
Exactly.
you,
Why
yeah.
do you want to scroll through people's banal shit that is all, I think, psychic pollution, kinda. Like, if someone bitches about the bus, then you're getting a tiny bit of their like emotions or whatever.
Yeah. Were you just checking Facebook there?
No, I'm being phoned. My pager. It's a phone.
I'm intrigued by that phone. That's a hardcore little phone. It looks like some smash-proof. It looks like a building site radio or one of those kind of things. I'm surprised they don't have any little metal hardware.
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah, like a walkie-talkie. Okay, so where do we want to go with this thing? So I still kind of want to know from you lot though. So that was George's. Yes. How much Facebook is too much Facebook? How much Facebook is too much Facebook? What do you guys reckon?
Everyone's too hungover to chat to them.
Yeah, I think people haven't quite woken up yet.
Front them and point at them and say, come here.
I don't know. I want it to be more like inviting in kind of a softer way. I don't want to just sort of shout.
It's a bit like,
instructions
you
at
know,
people.
how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? It's the light bulb that must want to change. Do you know? It's more like that. People have got to want to be attracted by the compelling conversation about Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually be sucked into the conversation, I would say.
Yeah, I think we need to wait for people to dwell in this area and they'll just naturally gravitate.
They will.
I think this is where our styles differ a bit, because you're quite inviting. I'm just like, no, they can just join when they want, and you know.
I'm confrontational because I'm frustrated. If
Okay.
I seem frustrated, it's because I am.
So, yeah, is that because of Facebook stuff?
I actually do feel like worse when I've looked at Facebook about things because I'm such a horrible old lefty that half my stuff is quite political and quite, oh my God, this horrible thing is going on, and oh my God, this poor person has no money because the government has taken it off them and all that, then obviously I will feel worse when I come off Facebook because their lovely little algorithm just throws more and more of it at you. So again, it's not like you ever get a relief from it, to be honest.
But it sounds almost like a contradiction to the way that people talk about Facebook as being this bubble of just nice things that support you, but actually that sounds like
It's
the
called
opposite.
an echo chamber.
Yeah.
It's called an echo chamber, people.
It's like this room is quite echoey, and it's kind of a chamber. But do we like our echo chambers though? It sounds like you'd prefer nicey things of nice people saying nice things.
I think that it portrays I think the Brexit result was in part down to social media, yeah, because you only got other people who believed as you did.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people didn't try to change things because they thought everybody thought like them.
And so you mean it
And I
felt
think
like
that people
we were
who
going to
didn't
win
vote
but didn't?
thought it's all right because everybody's going to vote the way I would vote anyway. And I seriously think that had a massive effect in that vote.
Does anyone kind of agree or disagree with that? I mean, Brexit happened because we were complacent, I guess, or an element, a factor. It helps, yeah. A factor of Brexit was
I
because of
wholeheartedly
complacency.
agree with that. And the manipulation of people's emotions using data is a very real thing, people. And anyone who says that it isn't is in it.
That's another
Is
kind of strand of
the
conversation
people-
we had today.
I say the people that don't actually believe in things such as echo chambers or, you know, people who think that their opinion is their own.
Yeah.
You know, no outside forces can influence what they're going to say. They're liars, and they're in it. When you're depressed, you don't know you're depressed. You know, you have to step outside of it, and then you see. Same with any echo chamber. If you stay stuck on Facebook, you will always be on it. It's just.
So if you can't identify the problem, you are the problem. Ellie, what do you think? Do you feel like you're in an echo chamber when you're engaging with social media? It was Ellie, wasn't it?
Yeah, is that what we're
okay,
talking about?
I mean, we don't have to. We can talk about anything. But
I've just joined
that's
and-
just loosely what we're kind of discussing right now.
more like how social media affects things and makes you feel, isn't it? It's how
Yeah.
social media
But, like,
affects things.
do you
How do you
feel-
feel about social media? Do you think it affects your views? Do you?
Do you feel
Yeah.
like do you get the term echo chamber? Is that something you've come across, and do you kind of feel part of an echo chamber?
Yeah, with like
deliberately so.
social media, like I don't want to be on it all the time, but
Yeah.
yet I find I am, because if I'm not, everyone else is, and I don't want to miss something. It has become like my most used like form of news. So like if something's happened, I'll usually find out from Facebook. If a band is doing something, I'll find out from Facebook, and that's I kind of like rely on it for everything. Like my social life in person, not just online. If I'm going out doing something, it's because I'm saying, oh, there's an event on, let's go to that. Like, you don't rely on like face-to-face methods much. It's like,
But before Facebook, did you go to gigs because an individual would say, "Oh, this band is playing"? Like, how did they
Yeah.
know? How did surely there was always an objective piece of information they could find. And
Yeah,
is
like-
Facebook not just the same, or do you feel it's different?
I'm not sure. I think in some ways social media has helped because you can reach such a wider audience, but it's kind of took, I don't know, the magic out of things. Like, you know, people will say, oh, come along to this, I'll just take you. But you got to research everything now. Everything's got like a link, you know, look at these photos. It's kind of forced upon you all the time, I think, now. It's...
Mikey, do you share that? Do you feel it's forced upon
I'm
you?
just
Or?
such an addict that it's, you know, I mean, the first step is admitting it, but like, it's, yeah, even, you're right, I generally in news now, the portal is through Facebook. Someone goes, oh, wasn't it horrible, there was an earthquake in Mexico. I go, oh, there's an earthquake, because I'm on Facebook all the time. I'm just seeing it that way first, you know, and also social events, everything. I'm just basically, I'm a slave to the machine, basically, and I'm only just realising it now.
What about this chap here? Are you a slave to the machine? Are you a willing servant, or are you an unwitting?
Well, first, my name's Nick. What?
This is Mikey. Oh yeah,
Mikey.
So this is Mikey. This is Leo. This is Pat. This is Ellie. I'm Rowan, and you are
Nick.
Nick.
Nice to meet you all. So I only caught the last sentence, what you were saying. Something about social media, was it? I didn't really hear.
Yeah.
So what was the thrust of the conversation?
One of the things we're talking about is, are we slaves to social media? Mikey's saying he's acknowledged, he shared with us today that he's addicted to Facebook. Ellie's saying that there's some like use because of like almost marketing purposes, but also it's like constantly there. It's in your face all the time. Leo's saying that it's kind of like you align with people who share your views in such a way that you are just surrounded by them, and you end up with this echo chamber.
An echo chamber.
Yeah. And Pat was kind of kickstarted that by telling us about how.
I personally wouldn't subscribe to that.
Okay.
I think the onus is on the individual to always. It doesn't have to be social media. It can be anything in life. Or always analyse information critically. But at the same time, I do appreciate that there are certain personalities, particularly children, who are more impressionable. But that's why there's so much pressure, whether that be governmental, whether that be from various organisations, researchers, academics, so forth, who try and encourage framework and corporate responsibility.
What do you mean by this? Like, what's responsibility?
So I want moving on from social media, for instance. So if you look back in the past few decades, there's been a change in, say, advertising.
Right.
Where if you look at, say, fatty foods and foods that are high in sugar, there's been change in legislation there about what times they can be used. And if you look at, say, like football shirt advertising, for instance, so we're in Liverpool, okay? Yeah. So if you take the Everton shirt, for instance, the Chang beer logo is on the adult shirt, but it's not on the kids shirt, whereas 10, 20 years ago, that wouldn't have been that. So
there's been a change in kind of like how we sort of censor, but what's the? I'm fuzzy about the connection between that and social media. You're saying that there's.
So you said, are we a slave to the machine?
Yeah.
And I think it depends on the individual.
That to beyond social media.
I think it depends on the individual.
Well.
I think it depends on the individual.
Okay.
But there are some groups, such as children, where there needs to be more of a top-down approach.
Gotcha. So there needs to be some control, and it's like, where do we level that control?
I mean, I think it's like, the greatest trick the devil played was to convince the world he didn't exist. Not that I think the devil exists, but I think, we are, like in 1984...
The book of the year.
The book 1984, right. Everyone's being watched over by Big Brother, and it's really obvious, and it's something that people grudgingly accept. But actually, the reality now is that we've invited Big Brother we've actually asked them to come in, and we want them to watch us. And we've actually submitted willingly to this system, and we haven't even realised that we've done that.
Who watches The Watchmen?
I think the show Big Brother should be an indication that they know this, and they are aggressively pursuing this course of, they want this.
Pat?
I could almost see it coming, because at one point there was a drive by the government to have a computer in every house. I mean, I'm talking about a number of years ago, when there wasn't computerized, there wasn't as many computers, and poorer people couldn't afford them. But there was that drive that everybody should have a computer. Even in social services, it was like people would get marked down on their childcare if they didn't have a computer for their children.
Really?
Yes. I mean, it's a while ago. I know this because my friend got into a load of hassle about it because she didn't have a computer.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
It doesn't, on some level it sounds a bit benign, doesn't it?
It was aggressively pursued to push computerisation into every house. So you do wonder if there is an agenda. I wondered at the time if there was an agenda, because then, you're hooked a bit, aren't you? It's there. And
what do we think? Do we think there is this kind of agenda, or do we think it's a bit emergent or uncontrolled, planned?
I could be a bit. There's an agenda. I have wondered, because it's so, as you say, it is Big Brother, and we have invited it in with open arms, and we've traded our privacy for capitalism, really.
I'll start hear from Nick, and then
I'd like to extend on that last sentence you just said, and also the thrust of what you're saying there. I think the trading it's a bargaining situation. So I would use examples of, say, store loyalty cards, for instance, where, sure, you are allowing the retailer to track your shopping, and that is a privacy thing, but in the bargain there is that you're getting discount vouchers.
Yeah.
So you can either choose not to subscribe to the loyalty card and maintain privacy, or you could take a subsidy in return for your data. So again, it's how the individual feels about that. So long as every individual understands that they are being watched in return, as long as there's transparency about that process.
So you reckon it's up to the individual to find what they're comfortable with,
I
freedom
think so, as we discussed earlier, with Facebook and things as well. They have your data, they use your data, and that is a form of capitalism, that they have your data, really. So in order to use their free service, you are again trading off.
Yeah. So it's like, let me come back to Nick. I just want to.
I actually wanted to jump the gun a bit.
Okay.
Hello. Join us.
Yes.
Join us.
We're talking about, kind of amongst other things, the ills of social media and selling our data online unwittingly. And does the government want that anyway? Is it encouraging us to be giving up our freedoms? And
Pat was talking about a drive for a computer to be in every home
back in the,
at one point.
When was that?
There was speculation about whether that was pursued aggressively, whether there was an agenda behind it. And I want to elaborate on this idea of an agenda, and I want to kind of dumb it down and smarten it up. I want to talk about philosophy. Bear with me.
Everything's philosophy.
Bear with me.
Okay.
Has anyone read or heard of Leviathan? Hobbes. Okay, so you've got Hobbes, who believes that the inherent nature of man is chaos. Okay, so that without a master, humans just kill each other, right? Because this is what I think it all boils down to, all of this stuff we're discussing. And then you have Rousseau, who believes the opposite, that the inherent nature of man is cooperation and compassion. Okay, now, I won't decide for us all. I think it's an amalgamation of both. I think that we have the potential, right? But there are definitely people who
give us a final thought
who write about these concepts and try and solidify them in human history to set that course. If you can prove that man is chaotic, you can tame him. That means you are the master. If you prove that man is inherently compassionate, you can get rid of masters, and people can look after themselves. That's what I think.
And what about women? But anyway, Pat.
Well.
Sorry, before anything else, what's your name, by the way?
James.
James, welcome to the table. We've got Mikey, Leo, Pat, Nick, Ellie, and I'm Rowan.
I've got to go. I don't know. I mean, I just felt that computer thing at the time. I remember thinking it was completely unprecedented because I don't remember a drive for any other piece of technology ever being so encouraged. It was never happened with television. So you've got to wonder that because that is such a useful tool for propaganda
and because it's two-way, whereas TV is just one way.
Exactly. You've got to wonder if there was an agenda just purely because of that. I've never known it before, and I think that's what surprised me at the time.
I'm intrigued by that. I'm actually going to go away and learn more about that because
it's quite a while ago. I can't remember, but I remember my friend, and I was thinking, well, why are they expecting every kid to have a computer? Why do they have to have it? You know,
is it related? I remember around that
school,
in the early 90s Computers for Schools program, like Tesco computer vouchers. Is it the same kind of thing?
But it seemed to be across the board. They were pushing it into everywhere, really. So I don't know. Might be wrong. Bit of a lefty, as I say. So who knows?
So, where should we take this?
Well, I just want to say there's absolutely no question that it makes us easier to manage. And that's really what's at the heart of it. And we like it. We can't live without it now.
Do you think they love that we all have computers on us all the time, pretty much?
Yeah, we're more manageable and more identifiable and more taxable, and that's the main interest. But it's not all bad. I mean, we use it for interesting, intelligent things and connecting, and there's an awful lot of garbage done on it. But we don't have to be of that. But the man is in charge and always has been. So what you going to do? You know?
What are you going to do, Mikey? What are you going to do?
I think that there's part of us that wants to be managed. We want to be in this stable world where someone tells us what to do and we do it. You know, sometimes we get our discount on our groceries or whatever and we get the things that we need. That's kind of safe and nice and acceptable.
I mean, does it matter? Like all this talk of control and whatever. Does it matter?
Such a wet view of humanity, isn't it? But I mean, we don't have to be wet. That's all. So I mean, I know what you're saying, but I mean, it's the least attractive side of our nature.
Ellie, what's your thoughts?
Like you said, like we've almost become reliant on it. Like we need this control. Like if Google suddenly stopped working and you were having a conversation, you needed to prove a point, what would you do? Like you'd feel completely lost. Like would we be able to find a train? Would we be able to do whatever? Like we completely depend on this technology for our lifestyles now. It's like we need it. Like although they may be, you know, spying on us or whatever, or taking our data or whatever. You know, is anyone going to protest that? Is anyone going to like completely just shut down the internet? Because I think as much as we hate the idea that we're being watched and there is this agenda, we kind of need it in our lives. Like it's our support system. It's how we function now.
So how dependent are we all? And does it matter if we're disconnected? Is it actually going to end the world? If someone pulls the plug, is society just going to collapse? What about you lot standing up there? How dependent are you on the internet? How independent are you on the internet? How dependent are you on the internet? Come and share with us. What about the internet are you dependent on? Yeah, all mates, come and sit down. Yeah, all three. You can come and sit down. Come on, we've got space. Come join us. And you've got to see music. Don't you hear music? Anyway, Mikey, what were you? Leo was.
I am a firm believer that man is his own master. You say, I don't think that it's a need across the earth. I think in first world countries it appears to be a need, yes. But it's an illusion.
Yeah,
because
it's not like we
Wait, so
believe it's a need.
right.
Like we think we need our phones on us all the time. I don't leave the room without my phone anymore because I think, well, what if someone sent me a message? No one's going to. You know, it's like I don't get messages constantly, but they might, and it's that mightness. We don't need it at all, but we have.
Like Mikey was talking about the addiction side of things earlier, like the minor dopamine hit you get from hearing the ping and thinking, oh, what is this? And it's just an advert.
It's a very short time that you've had all this. And let me tell you, having done it, it was a little bit more inconvenient. It is a convenience. But you can live perfectly well without it. Without even... If you'd never had it, you wouldn't even be bothered. Honestly, I can actually live without it.
So where's the line? Like, where's the level of how much we need it and depend on it? I mean, I like that there was some kind of differing views that it's got some use and we should.
When I indulge in a book, I indulge in something that someone has taken time out of their life to write. That is, even if it's a non-fiction book, the way in which they portray the facts is that person's own way.
Yep.
With the internet, there is basically a homogenization of culture. There's no culture. How can we create culture? How can we indulge in culture if we don't understand each other?
So you say that there's no culture on the internet? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. It's computer culture. We're trying to fashion ourselves as a machine.
Does anyone agree that they're not cultures and subcultures? I'll come to Pat in a second.
Something I'm not sure it's in direct response, but given the easy access of anybody to anything, if there is a movement or a point of view, it's so easy that needs a scene to foment and cook, like psychedelia or like poetry back in the 60s. Not that I'm necessarily promoting that, but it needed time to cook. And there's no time with this, because as soon as you discover a swimming hole in a river, next Sunday there's 500 people there because it's gone on Facebook. And there's no time for it to stew and get rich and create community. Whereas is in third world countries, that's the device they use to get together and make change.
So different cultures leverage social media differently.
Do you think we should?
I don't know. This is kind of what you were saying. Like we kind of abuse the technology, whereas in developing countries they're taking advantage of the fact they're like jumping ahead of us in a way. There's a gap.
Well, I think they're making a particular and I think really radical use. And maybe we are too, but I'm not of that scene, I don't know. But it's meant to be creating all these amazing things. Surely it is, but I don't see it because I'm not of it. Is it?
I don't know. Let's find out. Pat had her hand up and then...
I think that the whole way you feel and the whole way... when you've read something is completely different, and it does actually activate different parts of your brain. And I think to lose that ability to... I have noticed since I accessed social media a great deal, my attention span has become very poor. So I have gone back to reading a great deal because I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think the outsourcing of your intelligence is that good. That really started with calculators, didn't it? Not that I'm good at maths, but it did because who mentally, apart from the very, very clever people, does maths mentally now? I don't, but I never could do it anyway, so I was rubbish.
What I'd like to put to you though does it matter?
Ability.
I mean, if we have calculators, I don't know.
Then you've got to say if you lose all these abilities, and I don't know, there's a lovely nuclear war or something, and we lose all this, who's going to be able to do the things?
Well, that's interesting. What about
that people could just do without thinking? I mean, I do. I'm a real geek. I'm a real embarrassing. I can knit. I can sew. I can.
It's not embarrassing.
Do all these. I can do all these things. I can garden. I can do all this. But I know a lot of people who can't really do anything.
So after the end times, you're the person to go to.
I love them and they're great.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, in the old days, they'd pretty be self-sufficient in that regard. They'd, because you had to be.
But why aren't people now? I mean, is it just that there's better things to be doing, or it's?
I mean, in a way, with a book is a bit like an.
Do you want to give us a final thought before you go? Give us a final thought on things we've been talking about before you go.
It's here to stay. Here to stay. And it's up to us. We are the master of our fate. But it's fucking hard because the suck is so strong the other way. Yeah.
I don't think there'd be much disagreement there. Yeah, it's here to stay.
So it is, you know. Yeah.
Cool, thank you very much. Mikey. Pat's kind of giving us a final thought. Gotcha.
Well, I can't remember what I was going to say now.
Well, I mean, we can pass it to Ellie. She might have something to say.
It's like the same with the books and the skills and
About
things.
the end of the world, yeah.
Like, growing up, we didn't have a TV. I didn't have computer games or anything like that. I read, I did art. That's how I really got into art and music. I entertained myself. My brother, who's like 5 years younger than me, he got all those like learning toys, like the electronic ones, and I never had that. I always had like Lego and stuff like that. And you see it more and more as I look at kids now at schools and it's like, whoa, they do everything on iPads. Every classroom's got an iPad. Like, do these kids know how to
What schools have you been going to where they've all got iPads?
Or I've done loads of like... Yeah, just at primary schools, just everywhere now. They've all got interactive whiteboards. I still had chalkboards when I was at primary school. And now I go and I've done not teacher training. I've gone and been like a classroom assistant, volunteering. And you just see all these kids who just use iPads, use all this. They have Minecraft now, which I think is a really cool thing, but it's not Lego. It's like a digitalized version. Do kids know how to play with each other now? Like my little brother...
Is technology taking children's ability to play away?
My brother never sees his friends at weekends. He just goes on the Xbox and talks to them while playing a game.
But there's still interaction, isn't it?
It's still interaction, but like... I say,
Pat, come sit down. You look like you really want to say something.
I'm going to nip down and see if the guy's finished with the iPad.
All right, yeah.
Or ask him if we need to come down for it. So I'll be...
Cool. Yeah. What about these people walking past? Do you feel like technology is reducing our kids' ability to work together, to use their imaginations?
That's the other thing. Imagination, like it's going. I think you see a lot of artists on social media as well. As soon as they put something out there, you know, someone's going to steal it, someone's going to claim it as their own, and people don't really know how to think for themselves as much. Don't need how to go out, see things, do it. It kind of influences. It's constantly like Pinterest. It's a great thing. Yeah. Have you been on it?
But you're saying that individual innovation is kind of like being eroded.
You're always looking for.
But then you just mentioned something like Pinterest and all that. But that in itself is innovation, isn't it? And someone's imagined that and came up with that. So surely imagination can't be being reduced. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the things that are reducing the imaginations.
True, yeah. But there's always like tools for imagination now. Like everyone's looking for this source of inspiration online. Like you always got to research everything, and it just seems like I don't know. You don't know how to think for themselves. Kids don't know how to do things like read books.
But do you reckon though that's been a criticism of all generations, of all younger generations, that kids are losing some ability because things are different?
I mean, a book is like an iPad in a way, because you can write things in it, or another book you can read things from it, and it's a way of storing information. So it's like a sort of, first generation iPad in that sense.
But do you think there were similar arguments when, during the proliferation of like personal chalkboards and books and scrapbooks and whatnot?
I reckon there probably were. There probably were. I mean, I think the imagination is the key thing here, and I think that all human beings have got imagination, and that's just something that needs to be can be stimulated in all different ways, and I think you just need to find ways to stimulate the imagination.
How would you do that? What do you think? What's your suggestion for that?
Stories, conversations, poetry, art, music.
So culture, just
any kind of culture whatsoever, or jokes. Anything can stimulate the imagination, but that's what we enjoy doing, and what life's about, really.
And did you kind of worry that there's kind of like an erosion of culture then in?
So I obviously didn't address some of that point, but a few minutes ago there was talking about how technology is so essential now, and I think you're seeing to do what we hear maybe a few weeks ago, where the Yellow Pages was announced that it's going to be online only now, and not the physical book anymore. So there are some people, perhaps in the older generation, where that will be a barrier to entry. But that is the way the world is going. But in terms of what you were saying about books and so forth, I'm not a fan of technology for technology's sake, but I do feel there is an opportunity where technology can actually improve user experience. So if you have an electronic version of the Yellow Pages, instead of having to open the page, manually copy down into your own address book, with the modern web browser you can just double click or highlight text, bang, it's stored in your address book straight away. So that's a labour saving mechanism. And that's what you two were saying about books. I'm a fan of the.
Might need to turn that. We might need to get those guys to turn their thing down a bit. Yeah. Only because I can't hear you right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of what you two were saying about books.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the. Apple's called made for iBooks.
Yeah.
So you have not just a text, but then it's augmented with video, and then you have an expanded glossary.
So it hasn't killed reading; it's kind of enhanced it in a way.
So it's enhanced it. You can turn that off, so you can either have the equivalent to a paper book, but also you can have. If you think about when you're at school, you don't just have the text. You have supplements and so forth, and it's a way to enrich that through videos and notes. You've got a dictionary straight there, so having to flick through back and forth, you can actually use it as more of an interactive study guide, and some people help to remember that in that way. And you've got audio books and all that kind of thing.
So technology can enhance as well as take away from experiences. And
I was talking to a girl, like a 7 or 8 year old girl, and we were talking about reading, and she said she found it frustrating that in a normal book, if you found a word, you didn't know what it was, you can't look it up. She's used to just pressing that and finding the definition of that word.
Oh, that sounds brilliant to me.
Yeah. And so a normal book is kind of, there's a barrier because it's not interactive enough.
So I guess depending on who you are, a digital book might be a barrier. If you're someone of the older generation, it's going to be a barrier because. I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like you're on either side with that kind of thing? I mean, I've got my own prejudices, but I'm not really in the.
Another thing I guess you could think about is is this dependence on technology going to influence evolution? I mean,
as in
what, thousands of years?
As in millions of years of us growing bigger thumbs or whatever, more thumbs.
Oh yeah, I mean, our short-sightedness, because if we're always looking at a screen, or if virtual reality, really takes off, and we're always looking at something, when you take it off, are you going to be able to see?
I don't know. I mean we'd need an eye expert here to kind of confirm.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
it's obviously going to take a long time, but.
I mean, if it takes a long time, is it worth worrying about? Because other things are going to happen and change, and I don't know.
True, it's probably a new form of technology by then, but it's the influence that technology has in our lives is just, even for the past few years, I mean, it's the rate that it advances is kind of amazing, but also kind of scary in a sense, just because you don't have no idea what's going to come next.
Yeah. Well, is there some of the apprehension about technology just the fear of the unknown? I mean, is there any technology that people around this table fear just because it's different or new or unknown or something?
I think the Bitcoin thing is quite scary.
Bitcoin is scary? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you up there find Bitcoin scary? Does the idea of digital currency scare you? What do you reckon?
I don't think it's going to be a very popular.
Bitcoin stocks are okay.
I don't think it's going to be a very popular thing, Rowan, because. But it is quite scary where that's going.
What if there was psychedelic Bitcoin? Would that be a bit more appealing to people? I saw about 3 heads turn around there when I said psychedelic Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If Bitcoin was laced with a certain substance,
you could call it something
more
like
popular?
I'm just going to just.
I'm popping too much.
Yeah.
There we go.
Too much popular.
Yeah. I'll just reduce P words.
What about something like a brain coin or a head coin that's kind of like a mentally expansive currency would be a kind of interesting technology.
Yeah.
That kind of somehow rewarded a sort of as you thought more and imagined new ideas, you'd get more currency.
You could call it fiscalin, like fiscal mescaline.
Yeah, fiscalin, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what do you think that would appeal? Like a currency that rewards you with a sort of a digital currency that somehow rewards you with a trip or an experience.
Yeah, I wanted to actually say something about an earlier point, going back to the social media element, where we were talking before about how, say, in the 1960s, like it took a while for, say, poetry to percolate, and I think, do you remember the Arab Spring that happened a few years ago?
The Arab Spring, right?
Yeah, you remember that? So that was, a lot of the movement there was mobilised through kind of social media, so people...
If people who are listening, you can come and sit and just listen. You don't have to talk, but just come and sit and listen, and maybe you'll want to say a point at some point. I mean, in a manner of speaking, so this is Talkaoke. It's a pop-up talk show where we can talk about anything. And we're talking about social media, technology, pros, cons, evils, vices, virtues.
So we saw in the Arab Spring that technology allowed information amongst the ordinary citizens to be exchanged quickly. And that led to such a widespread kind of, I guess, uprisal it was against the incumbent governments. Mm-hmm. So that led to a societal change, I think, in a much shorter timescale than would have happened 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, do you all know what WeChat is?
What
WeChat? Have you had a WeChat? So in China, it's an instant messaging app in China. Okay. But the thing is, the Chinese government kind of they mandate what a lot of the apps there can do. So they block certain sensitive words, but also they limit like groups, chat groups to 100 people maximum, so that a critical mass of Chinese citizens can't form and try and do that. So that's one example of where the government, an authoritarian government, actually exerts control.
So it's like what the UK government did with rave culture, stopping gatherings of people. So anyway, welcome to the table. Let me just get a round of names to introduce our new faces. Who have we got here?
Mikey.
We've got Mikey.
Ben.
Brad.
Nick, and I'm going to have to meet my friend now, but I might come back later.
Well, thank you. That was your final thought.
Ellie.
Manu. Tom, welcome to Talkaoke. So, what do you want to talk about here? Do you like the kind of thread we were going down, which was about sort of, pros and cons of I guess, social messaging, amongst other things. This is a tool for connecting people and...
Yeah, well, like the guy was saying, it couldn't have happened 50 years ago. Things are happening quicker now because of that connectivity that everyone has, instantly being able to transfer ideas without needing to wait for
give us
publication.
a first and final thought before you go. Come on, give us a bit of time at least. Ben, I'll come back to you.
Tom, would you like to add anything to that?
What to you, Manu? You wanted to come here.
I mean, you can just like sit and dwell, and maybe something will happen. Maybe something will come to you.
I just sort of came out of curiosity, just want to sit down and see what was going on, really.
I mean, I won't necessarily poke the mic in your face unless you want it. You know.
We're just quite curious and explorative, so we're just going to wander around, and then we'll see if we come back down these ways. You know?
All right, but don't go out of earshot. Maybe something will catch your ear, and you want to join. Okay. So sorry, Ben.
I'm interested in knowing if you know what's going on this year in terms of curation. So we came 2 years ago. I think Anton...
We're talking about the festival now.
Yeah, is that okay? Yeah.
Go for it. We can talk about anything we like.
Yeah, so I'd like to get people's views. I've just got here literally about half an hour ago.
Yeah.
Came 2 years ago. There was a bit of a curation going on from Anton Newcomb.
Who's this?
So he was the lead singer of Brian Jonestown Massacre, and I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary Dig. He's quite a character, really interesting guy. Very much a free spirit. How would you describe him? Eccentric, yeah. Genius though as well, obviously, as they often are.
But you're kind of curious about what curation is happening here.
What curation is happening? Was it Mikey? Have you been here?
Yeah, I've been here, but we've been mostly sitting around talking about stuff. So when it comes to whatever the curatorial theme is there, I mean, I guess the one question that's come up is there any at all, really? Because, I mean, we had one comment, someone said, I think they call it a psychedelic festival so that they've got an excuse to put any sort of music on that they like. But I don't actually know, we've not actually had any of the organisers down, or we don't know very much about the themes or anything like that, so we'd probably learn more from you than actually knowing anything ourselves. I mean, personally, my view about it is, I personally, because I'm an artist, I'm not a musician, my idea of psychedelic, I think, is very, very different to what I'm seeing or hearing at the festival.
So that's an interesting point. How do you define psychedelia? It's such a broad church compared to a lot of genres.
Tell us about, what's your definition then?
Go on, Brad, you were going to say something.
Brad, what's your definition?
Well, yeah, I think you're right, and we were discussing this earlier about why the festival is called the International Festival of Psychedelia.
Come join. You're right.
Brother, how you doing, man? You alright?
How's it going?
Yeah, good, man.
So we're just discussing why is this the Festival of Psychedelia? What is psychedelic? What does it mean?
What is the definition?
Yeah. Do we have a definition? Does it matter?
Yeah, it's used ironically, I think, in the title of the festival, though. It's not trying to capture a genre of music. It's more tongue-in-cheek than that.
You were saying about how it was originally named. Go on.
Yeah.
You were saying, Brad, earlier about the original organisers, what the origins of the name.
Yeah, they were putting on a gig with two bands, and they wanted to give it an overblown title, so that's where they came up with the International Festival of Psychedelia.
A very sort of pretentious sort of name that would give it a bit more gravitas than perhaps it really.
So it started as something kind of small and funny and silly, and turned into a festival.
Almost, name it and it will come.
if you name it, it will come. Yeah.
So it's almost like the branding, the marketing kind of preceded the event itself.
It sort of reminds me of, I don't know if you know the sci-fi novelist Stanislav Lem, but he wrote this book called The Futurological Congress. And what it was is that in the future was just determined by whatever crazy idea you could come up with. So the Futurological Congress was this kind of congress of, and it's a very, very psychedelic novel, because it goes, the congress kind of gets hacked by some kind of psychedelic agent, and people just go a bit crazy on it. But in a way, that is it. If you name something and sort of describe something, and people like it and gravitate towards it, it becomes that thing.
So, I mean, perhaps do you reckon it might be called? It would be better titled something else to be a bit more reflective of what's really here? Or
you're saying that you have a different definitions about what you think others would call psychedelia, which for me, I guess the staples of psychedelia are connection between music and thought, around mind expansion, that sort of stuff, and often, to get there's almost a meditative, yogic thing going on in terms of the music, in terms of the drone, that sort of thing. But I mean, from an artistic standpoint, how do you define it in those terms?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question of mind expansion, really, to me, that's what psychedelia is. It's about expanding the mind. And it might be because I'm not a particularly musical person. To me, I want to see that in a sort of visual way, a way of somehow suggesting other dimensions or other perceptions that might possibly be out there. I mean, it's certainly when it comes to psychedelic drugs, I think to me the key insight about taking those drugs is you realise how constructed your reality is inside your head, and there are possibilities for other realities out there. And I think those kind of explorations, to me, would be more psychedelic than, I think music is a part of that, and the way music can somehow find kind of rhythms and sort of suggest things in terms of that, the rhythm of the brain, so to speak.
Let's have a picture. I mean, to anyone kind of in earshot, like what is psychedelic to you? What is psychedelic to you?
Psychedelic drugs.
Just drugs. So, do you reckon when you hear the term like the International Festival of Psychedelia, you just instantly think, okay, it's going to be a bunch of druggies there, just running around, bumping into each other, whatever it is?
Yeah, but also the music can be psychedelic.
And so, like Mike was saying, it's kind of intrinsically linked in a way.
Sorry?
It's intrinsically linked in a way. The music
definitely.
And the sensation of
ease. When you took ease, the music was linked to it in the 80s, 90s, whatever.
But do you have your own definition? Like, what is psychedelic?
Well, yeah, I suppose seeing things that are not there.
seeing things that are not there. I like. What's your name, by the way?
Roz.
Roz. Nice to meet you. This is Brad, Ben, and Mikey, and my name is Rowan. And another face. What's your name?
Jar Jar Sapien.
What can I call you? That's very
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. Okay, brilliant, Jar Jar. So welcome. This is Brad, Ben, Mikey, and I'm Rowan. So Ben, sorry, what were you
I
about
was
to say?
just going to say, I think the clue's in the name, isn't it? It's the mind is the central theme, really. Music. It doesn't have to just be music. It couldn't be music on its own. If this was a festival in a breeze block building with none of these crazy visuals and these sort of artistic elements, these visual elements, it wouldn't be what it is. And so, really, the thing that anchors it all is the brain. Not to sound too pretentious, but that's kind of my feeling on it.
Yeah.
Go on, Brad.
So yeah, so it's almost like it's intentionally multifarious. It's deliberately multiple things, like a brain.
I'm going to go and see the Floorman in camp. So.
You going to see who? Sorry.
The Floorman.
Describe the Floorman to us.
I know nothing about them. That's the best part.
Then why are you going to see them?
Well, that's the best part of seeing the
like
band.
The name or something.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, enjoy the adventure.
Thank you.
Come and report back. Tell us what the Floormen were like.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm intrigued.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
All right. Well, I mean, where should we take this? Like, what are you here to see this weekend? What's brought you here?
We're playing. My band Meat Raffle is playing later on at 8:45.
When's that and where's that?
8:45.
8:45. Okay.
Yeah.
In the Blade. Can you describe yourselves? Like, what kind of band are you?
Our music is. I find it irritating to give people an answer of what our sound is, but
I mean,
I'll just describe it as bastard music. Bastard music.
Bastard music.
It has no mother or father.
But would you? I mean, I'm not saying like pigeonhole yourselves, but do you sound like anything that we might have an inkling? I mean, is it more like, like Dvorak, or is it more like Slipknot? Like, what in that spectrum? Like, what are we talking about here?
It's in between.
Yeah, I'll come into Mike in a sec. Okay.
I mean, a bastard does have a mother and a father, but they're just embarrassed to talk about what the mother and the father actually is. And I think
good point.
that's probably the case with Meat Raffle, that maybe the progenitors are a little bit embarrassing or socially awkward.
So what's your influence then? Maybe what's
My influence is basically the.
Come and sit. You don't have to talk. You can just listen. Just take a load off. Yeah.
One of my influences is this. It's a water cooled generator outside Streatham.
Is it what? Sorry.
A water cooled transformer.
A water cooled transformer. Okay.
Outside Streatham train station.
Okay.
Which supplies the trains with electricity, and every time I walk past it, I just hear this low ominous hum, and I think it's an amazing sound. I took a recording of it once, and I sent it off as a demo to Pi Records because I thought it'd be a really good sign-in for Pi Records, but they didn't get back to me.
I like the experiment though. New face to the table. Do you want to give us your name?
Michael.
Michael, welcome. This is Roz, Jar Jar, Mikey, and I'm Rowan. So yeah, we were just kind of talking about music and its connection with psychedelics and psychedelia, and hence this festival. What brings you to this festival this weekend?
I've come for years.
Yeah. Have you been here since the start, or?
Yeah, the first year.
Cool.
But I didn't come last year.
Okay.
Can I just ask you, do you consider Meat Raffle to be psychedelic? Because this is a psychedelic festival, but earlier on people were sort of saying that it's not really psychedelic music.
Well, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Well, Dan says yes.
The problem with the terms psychedelia and psychedelic, it can make it susceptible to cliche. Like, for instance, if you listen to psych music, a lot of the psych music I hear is not psychedelic. What is psychedelic to me could be a Billy Joe record being played backwards with a few dirty jokes thrown over it.
Okay.
And that's why everyone's going to see Meat Raffle tonight, 8:45, Blade.
But let's not get bogged down in stereotypes.
Okay,
I think
yeah.
psychedelic music could be how you perceive it. How it's
more
subjective. It's
the
subjective.
reception context rather than
Well, exactly.
the artist's intention.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, like, why get the artist to pigeonhole the music? As Mikey sort of like suggested earlier, like something can be psychedelic.
He's better inside the circle.
Somebody can
outside the circle.
Somebody can define music themselves.
I've got no comment.
I mean, yeah. What do you feel about genres then? As musicians who don't like to pigeonhole, how do you feel about the concept of genres? Is it annoying? Is it useful? I mean, like, is it handy for some?
The concept of genre is only for one means, and only one means only. It makes it easier to find the record you want.
Right.
It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah. So, do you feel like it's a Michael?
I've bought pop music, rock music, metal music, orchestral music that's psychedelic. You can't pigeonhole it. That's what it's all about.
So psychedelia kind of exists independent of genre. You can have psychedelic whatever. Yeah.
For instance, there's a reggae record by Ernest Wilson, which is a dub version of one of his cuts, which I can't quite remember. But on one of the bits, one of the bass notes sounds out of tune, and it sounds really wonky. But it's quite a run-of-the-mill kind of reggae tune from the 70s, but it totally flips your mind.
Come sit down.
Yeah, come join.
Yep, right. Some of the best dub tunes I've ever heard are all psychedelic. Dub music is, but it's classed as reggae, but it's all psychedelic.
Would you expand it? Tell what dub music as opposed to reggae? Do you pick it apart for us?
It just has that wobbly beat to it and experimental side to it that reggae pop doesn't really have.
Okay. We've got a new face to the table. What's your name?
It's Mark.
Mark, welcome, Mark. We've got Dan, Michael, Mikey, Jar Jar, and I'm Rowan. And you're a top raver, apparently.
He was fucking having it.
Is that a label you give yourself or a label others give to you?
Pardon?
The label top raver, is that something you aspire to or something? Hello. What's your name? What's your name?
Alias.
Alias, welcome. This is Jar Jar. This is Mark, Dan, Michael, and Mikey.
Yeah. I mean,
3 mics.
Yep. I was just enjoying it, just going for it, and
now other people have given you this term.
Yeah, it's good. I'm happy with it.
What makes one a top raver?
No, so it was caffeine, if you count that. That was the only thing I was on yesterday.
Not a drug.
It is, absolutely. I think
so. It is lots of drugs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, too much. I couldn't sleep.
That was a very quick change of thought.
Yeah. Okay. Legal stuff, I suppose.
Legal drug. There we go. Legal
it's
drug.
just, I don't know. Music. I feel the shape. Yeah. The good music. I feel the shape of the music, and my body just moves to the shape.
Mikey.
I think that the government doesn't want us to expand our minds, and it's why they're giving us these deadening drugs like alcohol, rather than the more mind-expanding ones, because it's not going to suit their purposes. Basically, I know it's a bit of a kind of like standard banal thing to say, but I think that's why things like the psychedelic element of any culture is kind of sort of suppressed, because it's potentially dangerous. Not dangerous, but not serving really the state's ends or the corporation's ends.
Michael.
So the government make more money off cigarettes and alcohol and their drugs, so why don't they legalise other drugs? Cigarettes and alcohol kill more people every year than mind-expanding drugs do, so...
I mean, is it the fault of the government? Is it society? Like, what's the pressure coming from there, really? You think it's government? Is it government or society that decides which drugs are considered the good ones and the bad ones?
I think it's government. It's government.
You think it's government as well?
Yeah. I mean, there's this guy, David Nutt, who was the drugs advisor, but he came up, did some science, and found out that MDMA was actually great, and there was nothing really wrong with it. It wasn't dangerous, and they sacked him because they didn't want to hear those facts. And so I think that's a pretty clear indication of the government's agenda.
So it's suppressed knowledge. I'll come back to Michael in a second. Just want to hear
I really do believe there's this argument about comparing psychedelics to alcohol and cigarettes, like as if it's bad for you. Well, I kind of think like, so what if alcohol's bad for you? That's not a kind of basis for an argument. I think that all drugs are pretty fucking cool.
So it's not really a case of saying these ones are good, these ones are bad. It's just there are
civil war.
There are good and
It's
bad.
it just causes civil war. Do you know what I mean? People are allowed to make weapons. They cause much more damage. The organisation of society through the capitalist system globally is just ridiculous. And a lot of people are dying because of this arcane...
like the war on drugs.
Yeah, the war on drugs. Notice they say the war because these people are obsessed by war, whether it's dropping bombs in Baghdad or stopping people doing what they want with their lives. Of course there's going to be some crashes, but that's why people buy cars.
Michael, you had your hand up a second ago.
No, absolutely agree. It's like, why, if they legalise drugs, make some money off it, we can all benefit, and they can sort out the bad shit as well that are killing people. So that's my view.
Do you reckon the two will go hand in hand?
But also, I'm type 1 diabetic, and it is proven that cannabis can help someone with type 1 diabetes, but they still won't legalise it.
Wow.
But so, what is that all about?
And you just pointed out the medicinal kind of values of some of these drugs. But let's not forget that alcohol was used as a way of rubbing into the skin and rubbing into the skin and alleviating muscle pain.
Can I just hear from James? James, what did you just put a small vial of something into Mikey's hand? What is this?
This is CBD oil, what you were talking about. So I use it for my skin, psoriasis.
Can I put that in my vaporizer?
Yeah, not a bit.
What is it? I'm just so intrigued.
So it's they take out the THC, the psychoactive effect, and it's all the cannabinoids, the good stuff. So it's 10%. It's the best quality, but you can buy it in Amsterdam and just bring it over.
But it
doesn't get you high though. It's just,
it gets you on a plane. Yeah.
It does all the stuff that CBD should do, which is make your brain feel much nicer because the THC fucks with it, as do all the other alcohol, cigarettes, ecstasy.
Is this something you could add a drop off to your beer or something?
You just take a few drops.
Oh yeah.
Is anyone going to get in trouble for doing this, or are we okay?
Yeah, just in there would be lovely.
I'm ready.
That's it. That's all right.
I'm intrigued.
No, but you take a drop, put it in your mouth.
CBD, cannabis is made up of two things. So it's made of THC.
You have a go,
good cannabis.
Yeah, so have a drop as well.
Wow. Okay.
THC is balanced out by the CBD. It's a natural.
What has James started here? What's
it? Tastes like pesto.
Yeah.
Pesto.
Pesto.
Like as in pine nuts and basil pesto. How bizarre. Let's as time goes on, describe to us like what happens.
Timothy Leary, he said a lot of stuff that people don't agree with, but he always said that drugs should be free for their benefits, and so one of the benefits of cannabis is if you take out the THC, the cannabinoids with the way they work on our body, and it has been not proven for cancer, but if people had access to it and research was done, it would probably be more beneficial than the pharmaceutical industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any Leo? What did you have your hand up then?
No. I just wanted to thank you.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, amongst other things, we're talking about whatever we want to talk about. But
is it Jar Jar? I think that this point, the war on drugs is actually a war on culture. It's a war on alternative culture.
So it's a cultural war rather than just.
Because basically these bastards, man, they're so closely connected to the capitalist class and the bourgeoisie. They basically don't want they want to make sure people turn up to work on time on a Monday. It's the Clocks gang. It's a gang of clocks who've been hired out to suppress people, and drugs do interfere with that.
But don't you reckon why don't they use drugs to their advantage and kind of make people more productive with drugs? I mean,
well, then we're getting into the Olympic Games and stuff like that. I don't, maybe the answer is is to have let athletes take drugs. Do you know what I mean?
Sit down.
To enhance their performances. What's the big problem?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
are they cheating?
Well, what do people think? What is the problem? Should the Olympians be allowed to take whatever drugs they want to enhance themselves or disadvantage themselves? I mean,
the problem is that people have turned to crime to facilitate their drug addiction, and that's where the problem is. But if they legalise it all and the government rules it all, there will be this crime will be eliminated about drug abuse. So I think that takes it all out of the equation.
Does anyone share or disagree with that?
And also, no company should own the rights, the copyright on any synthesised drugs or none of these things that are naturally grown on Earth in the first place should be owned by anybody.
I mean, what about other forms of information, though? I mean, that's just.
I just have a really random thing to throw in the pot.
Go for it.
Why don't we just have an Olympics where people get fucked up, and that is the aim of it? Like whoever can handle it. I don't know. Maybe
that's called Glastonbury.
Who knows? If we ever get the chance to look into other people's brains, we hook them up or whatever. Who knows? That could be a really interesting sport.
I'm intrigued.
Dream Olympics.
This is here from Mikey, then Batuan.
You can have fifth dimensional javelin throwing.
Fifth dimensional javelin throwing. That's.
I mean, I don't feel like the point of taking drugs is to like show people how strong you are, and I think like what the interesting part is like actually stimulating your brain a little bit more, and you stay sober, and then you access the more potential of your body, and you go beyond the limitations of your human experience. And also like regarding to the conversation about the drug, like war on drugs, I don't think it's a war on drugs, it's a war on consciousness. Because I mean,
that's if we, like what Mike was saying, it's a war on culture.
If the governments really cared about like our health, they will make alcohol and tobacco be illegal at first place, because these substances are illegal because our society is designed around the idea of like a week has 7 days, and from Monday till Friday drink coffee and serve, Friday till Sunday drink alcohol and forget about the life that you regret having, or like you don't or you regret that you end up
do you
and then on Monday wake up and say that it's Monday again. I mean, if you look at like this is what hippies started in 50s and 60s, and even like the freedom of sexuality, or like having natural food, or like this, it all started by hippies, and hippies like also. But my point is that like you don't really see like people getting really drunk and talking about like anti-government stuff, or talking about consciousness, or like you never exactly like it's just like it's impossible to fight when you're high, and like I like Bill Hicks says like marijuana shouldn't just be legalized, it should be mandatory,
So people should just chill the fuck out.
Exactly.
But I mean, okay, backtracking a sec, I'm kind of curious about you were saying that I don't know, I've lost the thread. I mean, maybe we should hear from Jar Jar. It will come back to me. I had a question to ask back to you that you kind of posed.
I must say, I've wrote some really good songs pissed on booze. I have to defend alcohol here.
Okay, go for it.
I've had some, it's not, let's not have these are the bad guys and these are the good guys, it's all. The fact is, it's not actually about the substance, it's about the people who own the substances.
So there's a commercial sort of side to it as well?
I think we've all got our own choice, our own poison, if you like. For example, alcohol doesn't work for me at all.
Doesn't work? You can't get drunk?
No, I can, but it just makes me ill.
Yeah.
And
I see what you mean.
if I have a night out with friends, then 2 weeks I feel bad. Whereas other things, coffee, I feel good. I might not be able to sleep for a few days, but that's my choice.
Batuan, the question I was going to ask back to you was, you said it kind of feels almost orchestrated that we're encouraged to drink coffee on the Monday to Friday and alcohol to make you give us a final thought. And so my question would be, does that feel like a conscious thing, or is it unintentional? Jar Jar, give us a final thought.
Sorry, what was you saying?
What's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are...
Fair play. But yeah, I mean, does it feel? Is that a bit conspiratorial? Do you reckon that's real? Do you reckon that someone has sat there and gone, make them drunk at the weekend so they forget the dredge of their lives, or is it more? I don't know.
I mean, it's like I don't think like they were like, oh, we should get them drunk. But I feel like, experiencing altered state of consciousness, it's a natural thing that like we actually have like embedded in our in our human experience. We actually want to have an altered state of consciousness. If you look at animals, even they experience altered state of consciousness. And what is the altered state of consciousness that humans can have and not come up with ideas of that are against government or ideas that like make them question the society? It's drunkenness, and so you are it's a state of consciousness that is like that you are allowed to experience, but it doesn't allow you to actually question stuff. It numbs you. So I feel that like this is like the system. The system is aware of this, and this is why system is providing you alcohol in the weekends and coffee during the week, so you work better. But
is it bad that this conversation is making me really want a beer? In fact, I might think about changing.
The name of the game is stimulants and depressants. Stimulants and depressants, nothing else. If I'll finish
and then I'll pass over. And then we might do a change.
It's a very short point anyway. Stimulants. Stimulants are easy because they just speed thinking, right?
Yeah.
But they don't cause abstract thinking. They don't cause surreal thinking.
So it's like there's different classes, not in the ABC sense, but like different classes of
drugs. If you ever had to like make a map of your mind.
Yeah.
And people have been doing it for thousands of years in all sorts of religions and cultures, then you'll know that stimulants just speed you up. And depressants just slow you down, which is a very safe state of consciousness for the powers that be, or for anyone who wants to discourage.
Sure. Takes away your ability to think. But let's get a round of final thoughts for this round. And so thank you for that. Let's hear from Mikey and then back to
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily that as you say, I don't think the government has thought it out and gone, we need to design a system that will just keep people from not thinking. It just suits them, and it just came that sort of evolved in that way. That
so
alcohol
it was emergent, right?
because you can you can get over a hangover, you can drag yourself to work the next day. It didn't seem as bad as if you were like off on a trip for if you're really off your face in different ways. So I think it's more that it's evolved in this way with the coffee and the alcohol. I don't think it's necessarily a game plan from the powers that be.
Okay.
But the thing is that we're in a position now where we need to actually, as a species, think more and think more abstractly, more reflectively, more tangentially, and we have the tools to do that, but a lot of those tools are illegal. A lot of them are just available that people don't necessarily use them. But I just think that's where we are at right now.
Yeah. That's
why I was gonna say, like, I agree with you, but like, this is not gonna come with alcohol. I mean, like, if mushrooms were legal and you could just like take a bunch of people to nature and give them some mushrooms and see how actually connected they feel to the nature, but like, I was gonna just say this, that like, I think in any case, like, whether you're taking illegal drugs or alcohol, like, what's more important than the substance is the set and setting. Especially the set. Like, I mean, when people say like, oh, I was just drunk, oh, I was just coked up, like, no, it's like especially alcohol and cocaine, like, they bring what you truly are. So if you're a douchebag, you are more douchebag when you're drunk, or if you're a loving person, you are more loving on coke. So you wouldn't cheat on your partner. You can't blame it on alcohol that because you cheated. It's like actually you already have these thoughts inside you, and under the influence of alcohol, you cannot control these thoughts.
You have these latent personality elements that alcohol brings out.
And then the same with like substances like LSD and mushrooms. So and people are like, we're trained to like at school, from a young age, they tell you, oh, this is a knife, and so you can use it to cut an apple, but you can also stab somebody, and you're told to not stab somebody. We are not trained with how to use psychedelics, for example. So and also because they're in the black market, we don't even know the dose. We don't know where they're, you know, manufactured, and so people don't know how to take them. So they drop like 5 tabs of acid, and then they go off their face. And of course, they're gonna have a pet trip because they don't have to handle.
So you feel like the drugs education should be far more what's the word? At the moment, it's a bit biased. It should be unbiased, and it should be more promoting, but not encouraging, or something like that. It should be.
There should be some. I think you raised a good point about if it's unregulated, then you don't know what's in them. You don't know what they're mixed with. They're cut with some nasty things. People are just trying to profiteer from them, and there's no route to go and complain and get your money back. You know, you can't get a refund if it's a bad trip. But you don't want to. It's not something you can regulate too much. Like they can regulate the volume of wine and whiskey and beer.
It's a percentage.
You know, there's a percentage, and
it doesn't work.
And that attracts a tax. But how would they control?
Don't know.
Drugs, what we class as illegal substances.
I mean, maybe that's
today.
something that we could come up with.
What would be a mechanism? Would you have a safe place where people can go?
Well, let's okay.
You know, we have bouncers at clubs. That's basically the kind of control you're talking about, and there are not.
What do you mean by that? I'm a bit lost.
So a bouncer. Okay, it's a very blunt metaphor, but because violent tendencies in unstable minds tend to be brought out with alcohol, there is a large chance of a violent encounter. So there are generally bouncers.
Yeah.
Cool. Same with people on amphetamines and stuff like that. It does increase violent tendencies, but. I've never seen a bouncer who is trained to deal with a person who's tripping.
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Maybe
like,
not.
there's never a compassionate.
Right. Well, they have actually at Shambhala they have people the festival Shambhala. They actually do have people that are there to deal with people that have banned trips, and also there are people with mental health issues. Sometimes that can bring that out, and that there is an element to it. But just as you say, you can have a person that actually deals with that, and actually sometimes you can discover things that people maybe didn't know about their mental health through that experience. Yeah, I mean it would be a great job. Yeah.
Well, let's. I think I might wrap it up now so that we can get some food and drinks. But on the topic of drugs, we're going to find some alcoholic, stimulants or depressants or whatever we want to term it, and some coffee as well. But let's park it there. But I think we should come back to this. Come back later, and we can figure out how we can regulate drugs.
Maybe we could have a manifesto for like a new drug culture. A new safe drug culture.
We'll get a note taker, and we can actually make a manifesto for how we might regulate the drugs world, which I think would be quite fun. So anyway, thank you for joining me at Talkaoke. I've been Rowan, and we shall see you after we've had some lunch.